This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. And we have with us on WZRD via Zoom Ben Pavalon of the Chicago Ghost Hunters Group. Welcome, Ben. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Wonderful. It's good to see you. Well, first of all, how did you first come to be involved in the Chicago Ghost Hunters Group?
So originally, so in all transparency, I originally used to be a member of the Chicago Paranormal Research Society, which was actually created around the same time as the Chicago Ghost Hunters Group. And they, at the time, I started going to their meetings for a couple of years, and then they actually ended up shutting down. And that's actually what led me over to the Chicago Ghost Hunters Group. I joined as a member, like I want to say around 2009 or so, and just started attending the meetings over when they were happening over in Rogers Park. And that's pretty much how it all started with Chicago Ghost Hunters Group at that point.
Then what happened to your Chicago Paranormal Researchers Group?
Now that group was not run. I was just an attending member, but yeah, I have no idea why they ended up going away. They were a very active group, but all of a sudden they stopped having meetings over. I can't even remember where. Yeah, they were. I think they were having the meetings for a while at the Red Lion down, down over in down on Lincoln, by the Biograph, but they all of a sudden just stopped having the meetings, and they ended up, I don't know if the leadership ended up moving on to something else or what happened, but I really have no clue what happened to them.
Isn't the Red Line pub also considered to be haunted?
Oh, very haunted. Yes. Yeah. No, for a good many years, you could, every Halloween, you'd usually see an interview conducted in the Red Lion, and I can even say I personally had my own experiences there at back in the day.
What kind of experience? How is it haunted?
Well, I had an experience. I was in the men's room, and first I heard somebody like banging on the door, and I opened it up, and I was like, "Hey, somebody's in here," and then when I tried to get out, I couldn't even open the door at first, and I got it open. My friends who were sitting at the bar, I was like, who the hell was banging on the door? And they're like, nobody was banging on the door. The girl, we've been just sitting here the entire time. And apparently that happens a lot. That was happening a lot over
there. Oh, well, that's kind of surprising too, because when you tell me that, because when I've spoken with people in Hong Kong, and they also said that restrooms tend to be very haunted. What about your experience with that? Do restrooms seem to be more haunted, like an attractive spot for ghosts?
But it's funny you should bring that up. That there's actually been multiple locations I know where there's been hauntings reported in the bathroom. Lincoln Park Zoo is one of them, actually, in the primate house.
Wow. So do you know what kind of haunting there was for the restroom at Lincoln Park?
Now, I've had a few fellow investigators actually pick up some EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, in that bathroom. Who they are, no clue. But I mean, that building's been around for so many years, So.
Mm-hmm. So, but for the Chicago Ghost Hunters Group, you never went to Lincoln Park Zoo to do any exploration then?
Actually, I actually, in fact, did. Actually, we used to do a lot of work with Ursula Bielski's, her tour company, Chicago Hauntings, and she would do tours through there. And I was actually part of a couple of after-hour investigations into that facility. So yeah, in the farmhouse area, that's actually where the farm is. That's actually very haunted as well. I myself have picked up a few EVPs in that area.
So when you pick up the EVPs, could you distinguish what the entity is saying?
Oh yeah, no, I'm very picky about what I keep as evidence. like I'm sure you've watched many show where they do a playback and you hear some kind of indistinguishable voice and then they put a printout going, oh, it said this. Now, if I capture something that says something, I'm going to play it to you and it's going to be clear enough that you'll be able to hear the same thing. So I'm very strict about that. And sometimes the biggest challenge is, and the biggest finding is when you can get an answer that's like an actual complete sentence. Sometimes, it's usually maybe a yes or no or 2-word statement. So
does it usually answer something that the someone in the group is asking, or does it just pick up something that they're saying, or are they addressing something to the group or to a person?
Yeah, it's typically in response to a question, or sometimes you might be, like listening to an audio playback later on, and all of a sudden you hear a different voice talking in the background that had nothing to do with, that definitely wasn't any of the other people that were present. So it can be either or. And
then that means that while everybody was there, nobody heard it, but it pops up on the recording.
Absolutely, yes.
Does it have?
Yeah, and sometimes I can even pop up on either the video recorder or your digital recorder that you're using.
Does it have to be a special equipment that picks it up, or any sort of media that kind of presence might be picked up?
I'm actually glad you asked me that question. Actually, any type of audio recording equipment. I mean, I remember back in the early days of my ghost hunting experience, cassette players were, you were using a cassette player, or even some investigators used full on reel to reel players. It's just any kind of recording device. And these voices usually, if you put them in an audio spectrum analyzer, they're usually coming in a voice range, that's lower than normally the human ear could hear.
Is that a range where canines, they say that dogs hear at a different spectrum from humans? So is that lower spectrum audible to dogs and animals?
Possibly, and then some of the voices could actually be only picked up by a device that's picking up electronic frequencies. Like if you took it's like if you took a radio and disconnected the speaker, but had the output still going out and had like a magnetic coil pickup microphone, you'd actually still be able to pick up that audio sound, because now it's just being transmitted electronically, but it doesn't have a audible output that the human ears could hear. But that wavelength could still be picked up by like an induction coil type microphone.
And the media that is recorded, that is actually able to be transmitted and imprinted on the tape, is like this paranormal sounds are they conducive to being imprinted onto tape?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and the voices don't sound, they no matter how many times you've heard them, they do not sound natural at all. They sound kind of you could tell it's kind of an unworldly presence.
Is it very distorted?
Sometimes it can be like a little distorted, or sounds whispery, or sometimes you get very clear ones. But I mean, there is something that sounds a bit off about it. I mean, you could definitely tell the difference between me talking versus picking up one of these sounds.
And would you say that it's more often male or female? And do you ever hear children on these recordings?
I would have to say yes to all of those questions, all across the board. I've heard children, I've heard old people, I've heard I've gotten responses in a different language. I mean, it really depends upon the location and who's attached to it. We don't always know who is attached to the location either.
Could it be that sometimes the entity that you contact is connected with one of the people in the group instead of the location?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, I've had a few times where I've like, are you sure you didn't bring some friends with you? Because it didn't seem like it made sense for the location. So no, that absolutely can happen.
And what about the people in the group? Do they sometimes maybe get a message from someone when they're with a group, and that there is that message from an entity?
Oh yeah, like I've had a few people where I actually had, you could tell they got actually taken over by by a spirit for a moment. Like one time when I was at the Waverly Hills sanitarium, I was we were actually doing kind of like a trigger object session. I had a lab coat and a stethoscope on. I was trying to be a doctor and asking questions, and the first thing, one of the people in my group, she I could tell something was going on with her. She all of a sudden she got this look in her face where she wasn't looking like herself, and she started coughing like a tuberculosis patient. And I ended up like kind of snapping her, bringing her out of it. And she was a little freaked out. She said she didn't even remember what just happened. And then it was funny. Well, it wasn't funny, but right after that happened, I voiced the question. I was like, "So, do you think it's funny to give somebody else your symptoms?" And everybody could even hear it with their ears. We heard this whispery voice say, "No."
Oh, mhm. So did it seem to be intentional when the spirit took over the young lady, or was it just
Yeah,
you couldn't help? Mhm.
yeah. So yeah, it was intentional, and she even admitted to me. And she's a person that also exhibits kind of a mediumistic, abilities as
Mhm.
well.
Mhm.
She said that she felt it happening and kind of just went with the moment, but didn't realize she was going to let it take over as deep as it did.
Mhm. And when you say that the trigger object, so does that mean that you wore the lab coat to hopefully attract some people that are familiar with a lab coat that used to live there, and then attract their presence to the area?
Correct, because it was a sanitarium that specialized in a lot of tuberculosis treatment.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was the point, was to try and bring back that familiarity of the authority of a doctor that would probably be around there, and hopefully causing more activity to happen at that moment.
Mhm. So so that's a way to attract whatever presence is there already. That's one of your methods.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we do that a lot.
Could you give us another example of using a trigger object to attract the spirit?
Sure. We were at the Ashmore Ashmore Estates, which is used to be the Cole County's almshouse, which was a poorhouse, and then later on became the Ashmore facility for the mentally challenged, and they even
Mm-hmm.
had some like criminally insane people there as well. At the on the top floor nurses station, we put out cups of like pill, to make it look like we were giving out their medication for the day, and we were like, "Hey, it's time for your medication. Come on up." And we actually got a picture that looked like it's a nurse standing at the counter, and did pick up a few voices on that as well.
So was the nurse ready to start her job? Like now it's the medication, so she has to make sure that she's there to distribute the medication.
Yeah, and I think actually my impression was that the nurse was annoyed that we were trying to give out the medication and that it wasn't her job. So yeah,
Yeah, she must have done it forever, and then that kind of attracted her back there, or she
yeah,
never
she's like,
left.
who exactly? She's probably, yeah, I think she probably never left and just was like, who are these guys coming in to give out, do my job?
So when you meet an entity like this, does it mean that they died there and that their energy lingers, or is it that even though they die somewhere else, their spirit is so attached to their workplace that they drift back, or is it that when people are alive, even when they're at home, then their spirit is still at work? What is your opinion?
So there's a lot of theories about this, and you know, a few things can happen. I mean, typically, like if somebody like died a sudden death where they didn't even realize they died, like they dropped dead from like a brain aneurysm, and they might there's a theory that they might still think they're alive, so they stay present in that location where they drop dead at, or it could be that they love their job so much, and they died, and they don't want to move on, so they're going back to continue on doing the thing they love, so they're going back to that location that made them feel something. And then also, and in some of these could be also what's called a residual haunting, where maybe they put their energy impression on the area, and it's just basically replaying a moment in time of when they were at that location. And I know there actually has been experiments where they have found the trace of somebody who is there that's actually still alive. so that actually takes it to a whole other dimension right there.
Could you give us a little bit better description of that?
I can't think of an exact one to pull up, but I know there's been a few cases where medium's gone into a location, picked up the presence of somebody who committed a crime there, and was thinking that the criminal was dead, and then found out in fact that person that committed the crime was in prison and alive. So it might have been just the emotion of that moment of committing a violent crime might have left that an energy impression in the environment that was still able to be recorded.
For residual hauntings, then are the investigators able to speak with that energy, or is it that there's no mind in that in the residual energy? Is there any could the investigators communicate with that with a residual haunting?
No, they cannot communicate. They'll just get that remnant, and you'll find maybe multiple investigators might pick up the same thing when they go to that site as well.
Mm-hmm. So it's just like almost as if that energy is imprinted onto like a kind of a tape.
It's like, right, exactly. It's like a recording loop that's going to be present all and stay there forever.
Mm-hmm. When you were with the paranormal researchers group, how did what you investigated there differ from what is investigated at the Chicago Ghost Hunters group?
So when I joined that group, didn't go. They probably had more speakers. I didn't go on a lot of investigations. That was actually part of my at the time, part of my problem. They had a few investigations, but I think when I joined, they were probably like more winding down, just based on the fact. So when I actually joined and actually took over the leading the Chicago Ghost Hunters, that was my goal, was to keep a lot of active investigations going, and keeping people's interest in making sure that people had the opportunity to go on investigations, and then try and organize a group. So when we're on an investigation, I would pair up, experienced people with non-experienced, so everybody would have kind of the same experience and follow the same protocols and rules before that.
Mm-hmm. And when so about how many people would be in a group of investigating, the pros and the amateurs? How many people on an investigation on the average?
Typically, and it really depended upon the size of the location. Like, a huge asylum, like, Waverly Hills, I could have up to, we usually bring about, maybe 10 people, because we could split it, I could split us up into, three or four groups, and, everybody take a section, and we would do a rotation. So, because that's a big thing. It's like, when you're trying to, do like, EVP sessions or anything, you don't want to be hearing another investigator's voice down the hallway. So try to make sure everybody's spread out enough. And especially like, then there's smaller locations where you might be in a house where then you want to cut the number down to half. So, my ultimate goal was to always make sure that there weren't too many people, because that's the thing, is like, if you go to a lot of these investigations that, they advertise online where they're like, hey, come over to this place. They're probably going to have way too many people, and you're not really going to get the full experience of, what it's like to really do an investigation.
How many times does it usually take to do an investigation, to go to the location? Is it all wrapped up in one visit, or usually there's more?
I mean, ultimately, you want to be able to go multiple times, but when you're going out with like a group like the Chicago Ghost Hunters, we'd usually be going out just for a night, unless we were going to like local sites around here. Then we could go repeated times.
Well, how many times do you meet a month, and about how many times do you go out into the field, relatively, like per month?
Well, so current times we haven't. So let me take you back through the history of the
Okay.
the group. So because
Sure.
we have the pre-COVID times to after.
Yes.
So pre-COVID we were like going all over the place. We go out to like down Archer Avenue, and go to the Archer Woods, and there's various cemeteries we would hit repeatedly, and sites where famous people. So yeah, I mean those kind of sites we would go to numerous times. You didn't have to pay any money, you didn't have to make any special arrangements. You could just go, or there'd be the occasion of like private investigations where somebody would report a haunting, and then you would have the luxury of they would let you back into their own home multiple times as well. And then the other nice thing was, so when I took over the group, we ended up having our meetings over at the Red Lion, Lincoln Square. Not to be confused with the other Red Lion, but they were both Joe and Colin were originally partners, in the original Red Lion, and then that building ended up falling apart. So Joe ended up opening up his own Red Lion over at Lincoln Square. So the cool thing was that building itself was haunted. So it was a great meeting place. So there we, of course, repeated investigations. So it was great for equipment demonstrations because, always had active spirits there. So
the Red Lion being haunted, was the old location haunted as well as the new location?
Oh yeah, both. Yeah, and both. I should say, even though it was the new location, it was still an old building. So yeah, it was interesting. I actually negotiated a peace treaty between a spirit that was breaking dishes, breaking things in the kitchen, and the owners.
So the owners were alive, and then the spirit was upset with the owner somehow.
Yeah, and it was actually a kind of a silly thing. But really, all we had to do is we were doing a Victorian seance for a Halloween event at the Red Lion, and that was with my wife and I, Pam. I was using the spirit box and actually got those entities to talk, and it was interesting. They had accents, and one had a British accent, and it turned out all they wanted is to be acknowledged that they existed. So once Sue, who is the who ran the kitchen, and her and her husband owned the Red Lion. All she had to do was say good morning to them every day and acknowledge them. Everything stopped. And because I asked them the question, it's like, did you guys just want to be greeted? And they said yes, and they stood by their word on that.
Is it often that the entities just want to be acknowledged?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, sometimes just putting a picture on a mantelpiece and recognizing, they're looking for respect.
Oh, so evidently they're also kind of looking for companionship as well, even though they've passed.
Yeah, I think they just want to see that people remember them.
Mm-hmm. Well, that gels with the Chinese people, because I am Chinese, and then the families, they always have an altar at home for the ancestors, and recognize them and pray to them on holidays. So that makes sense then.
Yes, which helps keep the peace. Exactly.
When what is a number of people that are conducive to spirit appearing? Is a spirit more likely to appear when a person is alone, like in the movies, or or when you say that about 3 people is the ideal, if that's a good number for to help a spirit appear.
So I personally believe that spirits appear way more often than people even realize. It's just a matter of noticing when they appear. Because many times, you might hear a sound, or if you're in a room with a bunch of crowded people and you hear a noise, you're assuming it's one of the people around you. You don't know that it might be something else making that noise. So I think what it is when you're alone, you tend to know, you tend to notice more the environment around you at that point, and then you'll pick up on it. So I don't think it has anything to do with really the number of people around. I do think energy also plays into it, because it seems like, I know from like when we've done, like repeated questioning sessions, it does seem like they run out of juice at some point and need to recharge, and we've noticed, problems with equipment, like cameras that were fully charged being dead right on, right out of the box.
Oh. So you say that when you're talking with a ghost, then eventually the ghost gets tired and has to rest. It's just sometimes, or is it usually like that?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it has to do with when they're trying to communicate into the material world. They need some type of they need some kind of energy to be able to manifest that happening. And I know it does seem like they need to, I don't know if it's necessarily rest, but they just need to collect that energy. Where I found in certain cases where we actually put energy in the environment, things can kind of get crazier.
So sometimes the spirits need to be charged, but sometimes that the spirit is so powerful that the energy affects our material world, you're saying? Correct.
Yeah, because they'll be looking for energy, and they'll take it out of your camera, your cell phone, whatever they can find that has energy to pull from.
Oh, so that's what happens.
Or they'll even take it out of the person as well, which is not a good thing, because you'll feel it. You would feel drained, which I have, which many times after an investigation, I will feel physically drained after the fact.
Oh, okay. So there's a difference between possession and then draining energy to replenish.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, huge difference. Yeah, possession is somebody being possessed that's a whole different can of worms, so to speak.
Yes. What about the spirit box that you were talking about? What is that used for?
So the spirit box is it's kind of like it's called ITC communications, which these boxes are range anything from they scan the radio they'll scan through the radio frequencies at a super fast rate, like 250 milliseconds or 200 seconds. And what happens is it's believed, as they'll say, is that scanning through the frequency so fast it can't pick up words of the station, but it enables the spirits to use that radio spectrum to be able to communicate. Because you'll hear voices come out, and you can clearly tell the difference between, no, that's not a radio show, that's somebody talking through this.
Oh, this is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM, and we have with us on WZRD via Zoom Ben Pavalon of the Chicago Ghost Hunters Group. So you're saying that when spirits communicate, their rate of energy flow is faster than what we do. Let's say when we communicate with our voices, if they communicate with their voices, you mean it's like faster, like the difference between light years?
What it is I think with them is they need something that's already creating the sound to be able to alter it, to use it to communicate with, because we have a voice box, they don't. So they have to, and because they seem more, because they're more energy based. And us as human beings, we're energy based beings. We have energy that's inside of us. they I think like by the radio, scanning through and creating that, that sound, they're able to alter that sound and turn that into verbal communications because of their, because they can alternate with that energy field.
Oh, so they use the radio spectrum to communicate then.
I mean, some people even use just, they can use the radio spectrum, or like if I had a device that was just producing a white sound, like, so, or like baby monitors, they've actually, I mean, people have heard, I'm sure you've heard of many cases where people are hearing voices off the baby monitor that aren't coming from the room. It's actually something else. So,
so does that usually happen when in a haunted place, or not necessarily when there's sounds from a baby monitor?
Well, sometimes it is a haunted place. It depends. I mean, you can tell the difference between, somebody else has the same baby monitor next door, maybe, or, somebody's transmitting something that, bleeds over, but versus all of a sudden hearing, hey, that voice sounds like it's in the room, but there's nobody in there. That's the whole difference.
And have you ever gone to investigate the such cases with the sounds from baby monitors?
No, I have not had a baby monitor case, but I have talked to people who have had that experience before.
Do you know if when there is such a case, how is the baby affected?
That was the other thing I should have added to that. Yes, the baby does get affected because they noticed the baby had been reacting. So it seemed like the baby was acknowledging something in the room as well. So that actually makes it a bit more interesting, of course, versus going, well, it could have been some bleed over sound coming from someplace else. So
how does the baby react? Do you, just if you have any of that information?
Sure. The baby basically acts like it's seen somebody. Mm-hmm. And I've known a couple of people that have said where they thought the baby was talking, to their departed, parents, which would have been the baby's grandparents.
Okay, so the grandparents did not necessarily live in that house, but the baby seemed to have seen the grandparents then.
Correct, and the baby might not have ever met probably didn't meet the grandparents before because they passed away earlier, and it just adds I mean to add more scare factor. Well, I should say the more stranger factor is they could tell the baby's like interacting with something in the room by the way it's making sounds and stuff. So that's what leads them to believe of that in many cases parents were like first freaked out thinking somebody broke into their baby's room. So
is the baby usually happy, or is the baby sometimes upset?
Typically, I mean, the people I've talked to, the baby was happy. Mm-hmm. So, yes. Because a baby doesn't understand what it's seen at that point in life. It's not like if I was laying in bed and all of a sudden I heard a voice and saw some figure, I'd be thinking I think I have an intruder.
Recently, I saw a video on Facebook, and it was about a dog that recently passed away, and that same house had a cat. And then a couple of hours later, they filmed the cat sitting on his haunches and looking all around the air, and then trying to paw at the air as if it recognized maybe it was the dog that was floating around. Have you heard of anything like that before?
Oh, absolutely. I've seen it myself as well.
So what happened? How did could you tell us a little bit about how something like that unfolds?
Yeah, typically, I mean, when you see, animals can see things that, that we can't. And babies are pretty much the same way. They tend to be more open, their mind's more open when they're at that age, so that they tend to pick up on things that are they're not going to quit. They're just going to accept that there's something here. And when I've seen it with my own animals, I see them all of a sudden reacting to something that's, backing up or reacting to something that I can't see in a room, which of course being being a paranormal investigator myself, that would be my first instinct going, okay, what are you seeing? What's going on here? Like I had an interesting experience when I had a German Shepherd that passed away years ago, and when I adopted a cat from Paws, like about a couple of weeks later, I know she was like reacting, like she was like backing up in an area, and it was the spot where my German Shepherd used to like lay down.
Mhm.
And when I verbally said, "Hey, Molly, it's okay. She's part of the house now. Let her have access." All of a sudden, that stopped afterwards.
Oh, so so the cat was avoiding the place where Molly used to sleep then at first.
Exactly.
Oh, mhm.
Yeah, and she was even like backing up in certain other areas. Like you could tell she was reacting like there was another animal in the room.
Oh, wow. So what about when someone or an animal dies? What happens like shortly afterward in the hours that follow? Is there any phenomenon that you heard about that that occurs in the home where that person or animal used to live, or at the place where the person or the animal died?
Oh yeah, I mean I can say from my own personal experience, I even recently, that very cat I was talking about passed away actually a couple of months ago, and I know I had a couple of experiences where I could swear I like saw her out of the corner of my eye coming around the corner and stuff. So I think pets do tend to hang out at first, and then as we get past our grieving for them, we let them go, and they tend to move on. But no, I think it's very very common. And I mean, I know if you search the internet, you find tons of cases of people, saying they saw their pets still hanging about after the passing.
Are they usually floating, or are they just on the ground in the usual spots, or just around the house somehow?
Yeah, for my own experiences, I've seen them just doing their usual things that they would do. Yeah, like sitting in their favorite area or going around. Even my actually, it was the funny part is even my dog, my newer dog, my pug dog, he was actually reacting to where the cat used to go to. There was a few times where I could tell he seemed like he saw her.
Oh, is the cat is Molly okay with the new dog being in the house then?
Well, no, I don't live in that. That was my old condo, so yeah,
Okay.
Molly's not in the picture on it on this one, but yeah.
Mhm. Do paranormal researchers do peer review like academic scholars do to determine the validity of the results of an investigation?
So I'm going to tell you, I am very much about doing peer review. So I
Mhm.
come from a background. So that was the one thing I haven't told you about. I come from a background of, I work in, I used to work in computer forensics. I've worked as a private investigator before. So I am very much into, very, rules of best evidence,
Mhm.
capturing things. And I think it is important to have people review everything. I also have a background in photography, so I'm very, 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 very critical when it comes to analyzing photographs. But yeah, I think you should be able to send something to anybody in without telling them what to expect to see. And if they can come back and say, "Hey, I see," they report they see the same thing or heard that same comment on the audio format, then you have some really good evidence.
Mhm.
So yeah, no peer reviews, and you'll find like a lot of the very serious investigators, not necessarily the entertainer
Mhm.
investigators, which
Mhm.
I'm not slamming any of them because some of them are very very good,
Mhm.
but no, I mean they are all about doing peer reviews.
Mhm.
I
What
mean
were
like one of
some?
the
Yeah, go ahead.
so I was going to say like one of the oldest groups that came out of the UK is the Ghost Club, and they've been around since like the time of back. Dickens was a member of the Ghost Club.
Mhm. So was Dickens inspired with in his writings of ghosts? Was he inspired by what his work in his involvement in those ghost clubs then.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he was big part of the spiritist movement back in that time.
And
So
the
yeah,
British, yeah, go ahead.
so yeah, I was going to say they actually were good at establishing a lot of rules. Actually, to your point about peer reviews, I mean, it goes back as far as their organization, and I'm also actually a member of the Ghost Club as well myself.
How active are they now?
Very, very, very active. I mean, they actually the UK is really good about supporting their paranormal investigators. I mean, they get access to repeated locations at a lot of very historical buildings, and they've been no they even actually have now moved up to having Zoom meetings. So before I was annoying because I couldn't attend their meetings because they used to only do them in person, but now they actually have them on Zoom. So I've actually, as long as I get up at a really insanely early hour of the morning, beat it UK time, I can actually attend the meetings.
So when they do their investigations, do they have a laptop or a camera along so that the Zoom attendees could also participate?
If they're doing a live investigation, absolutely. Yes, they will do that.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Are they available on in the US? If some of our listeners want to join their Facebook group to learn a little bit more, are they available on let's say Facebook?
I believe they do have a Facebook presence, but I'd actually go to their website, because they are, it's just ghostclub.org, I believe, I think .uk. Yeah, just look that up, and they do have you can subscribe, you can become a member, you have to pay a fee, and they actually do provide you a monthly publication that they'll actually send you of their investigations. They have a research library that has a lot of interesting papers where they've done some very, very, very respectable and hardcore research on different areas.
Mm-hmm. What were some milestones for the Chicago Ghost Hunters group?
Some milestones. Well, definitely, we were going on a lot of pretty good hardcore investigations at some very well-known sites. So ongoing quite a few, and we I also was able to a lot of like really good speakers to come and talk to the group as well. So at that point, no, I mean the group, we were probably going on investigations for a while, like almost on a monthly basis for a while.
Mm-hmm. How about now? Are you still able? Well, for of course the pandemic stopped that, but are you able to Zoom now, or is it still on Zoom?
So I'll tell you. So here's what happened. So 2019, we were having I would say like between 2018 and 19, our membership, the attendees were.
I think we kind of froze. There's a little buffering. So listeners, just bear with us. Ben will return. Oh, well, he just dropped out, but he definitely will return. Yes, this happens. Or maybe there's some spiritual entity that doesn't want us to be discussing this, because I think this hasn't happened before. That it has happened once before. Once Ben rejoins us, then of course we will continue our interview. Let me also write down what we were discussing so that you could. And that was the milestones of the Chicago Ghost Hunters group. Let me see if I could contact Ben. here we come. Ben is returning. There you go. Hello, Ben. You're back.
Hopefully the ghost didn't get too mad and kick me out.
Yeah, we were just discussing milestones, and it seemed to be pretty innocuous.
Yes, it did. So yeah, as I was saying, like 2018, 2019, all of a sudden attendance was really inconsistent. We had a lot of like we for good many years we had some really hardcore dedicated members, and then a lot of people like ended up moving away to like other cities and states, and it seemed like a lot of our new membership base. Part of the problem was a lot of them, before I could always like like book a place like at a place like Mansfield Reformatory or something, and I had no problem putting out the cash up front to get those locations, and I could always count on people willing to want to go to them. Towards the end, I don't know if it was the economy, if there was just too many I think too many people had expectations of we would supply the transportation for them, or they just didn't have they didn't have the money to pay to go on a road trip to go to these places. So getting enough people, I mean, granted, it didn't hold me back from continuing on with my own investigations, but yeah, getting the group as a whole and inconsistent attendance. And then towards the end, the attendance really started dropping. I mean, it got to a point where sometimes, me and the organizers would show up, and then there would be nobody. It'd be just us. So, yeah, it just got to a point where it just didn't make sense to keep paying the cost for meetup.com and keeping the group up. And we were instead of having a group where people were helping out, contributing, and keeping the group going, it just didn't make sense to keep it going. So I ended up shutting down the meetup in 2019, kept the Facebook group going, just to see if we could figure out what to do moving forward. And then actually, which strangely, at the end of 2020, Red Lion, actually, Lincoln Square ended up shutting down as well. So, and then the pandemic. So yeah, I've been trying. I have had a few Zoom meetings. I am trying to see if I can get any interest going. The thing that would actually, what I would like to see happen is if we can get our Zoom attendance happening. I do have a whole pipeline of speakers I could get that would attend a Zoom meeting, but I'm not going to have them come if we're not going to get good attendance on those either. And then the other thing is there could be, I am looking into kicking around the idea, and this is actually more when our environment is so not less ruled by COVID attendee populations, is I'd like to start maybe kicking off some special events for Chicago Ghost Hunters group that would get people to actually attend in person, and maybe go to have it at a place like the Great Escape, for instance. That's a very haunted location in itself, or other locations similar to that.
The Great Escape, is that in Gurney? I can't remember where it is, but I did go to one of the locations. Which location is haunted?
This is Great Escape. It's not the same one that you're thinking. It's the Great Escape. It's on Irving Park. It's like in the let's say it's in Melrose Park. Yes. And that place actually used to be a movie studio. They used to do like Little Rascals and some of the more classic productions back in the day. So yeah, it's a very haunted location from that space. Yeah, it's a restaurant that serves a lot of they have like a lot of I think chicken seems to be more their specialty there, and they have a bar there too. But yeah, it's not the same chain. I know a lot of people make the mistake of thinking it's the Great Escape that has multiple locations. No, this is this one location. It's called the Great Escape.
Oh, so it's just a restaurant. It's not that the business with the attendees going on trying to escape from something.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew you were thinking it was that one. Yeah, no, it's not that one.
Okay, just to clarify, because I was in one of those locations. And again, how is that location haunted?
it's just, it used to be a movie studio back in the day. I mean, that building's been around for, since like the 1920s or so. So it has a lot of history, and a lot of things have happened there.
Mm-hmm. So you find that the places that have more history does tend to have more haunting activity.
Oh, absolutely, especially if the original structure is still there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a big part, because those need someplace, typically, an area where it can lock, the energy can, just lock in on is does
Yeah, no,
play
no,
a big part. Yeah, no, yeah, go ahead.
Is it true that if one wants to eliminate some of the haunting energy, let's say if there was a violent crime on that property, and they want to just clean it up and build something new, is it true that if you tear down the original structure and then have sunlight on it for a while, then that helps get rid of some of the bad energy, or does that help? Does that not help?
And you know what? There's no rhyme or reason to what helps. Sometimes tearing down the building doesn't make a difference. So things will stay. I think are just it's so the thing is like you can't this is like it's a science, but it's there's so many hard way, it's so hard to put controls around the environment of these places. So you really can't say for sure, if I tear it down, is it gone? Or if I have, if I bring in a religious, somebody to, a pastor or somebody to, bless it and clear it, will that fix it? Unknown. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It really just, I think it depends upon what's causing the problems.
So you mean that if it's stronger, that whatever's causing the problem, if that is very strong, then it's very hard to get rid of it.
Yeah, I mean, think of it this way: if you were like a mean person in life and enjoyed tormenting people, and all of a sudden you die and find out you still have the ability to do those things to people, wouldn't you would probably hang around and enjoy yourself and do that thing you like to do. No matter what they do, you're not going to go away.
Do you have an example of something like that you investigated?
No, I don't, but I've had theories. Like, I can't tell you how many places I've been to where all of a sudden I hear the voice of "I'm a devil," or they'll say something like that. It's like I could tell. I'm like, I don't believe it. I think they're just somebody trying to mess around, and scare people. So I mean, that would be my example. But I mean, I have no way of knowing who they are or where they came from.
Have you ever investigated the Gacy house or the home that has been built right now over where the Gacy house used to stand?
No, I have not. And, that's the problem with sites like that is, people will call the police because they don't want people, hanging out and invest, and it's a private residence. So you have to respect that. I mean, that's what I always tell people, even, in the group, don't go trespassing, don't infringe on people that own a place. So no, I have not.
Okay. And then do you find that when people do invite you to their place, is it on account of their are they upset that they hope to have the activity cleansed out, or do people invite you to their private residences to investigate activity?
So yes, they will call out many times. I think I would say the majority of the time, it's really they're looking for validation to make sure that there really is a haunting going on and that they're not losing their mind. So, and to find out if we can find out, more information about what's actually in their home. So that's usually the number one goal is they want to find out who's there. What do they want?
So are you usually successful in helping those people, or what happens usually?
I mean, typically what happens is we'll investigate the place, and we'll just present, we'll present our findings of, what, any voices we picked up, anything else, our impressions, and, whether they're satisfied or not, that's a, so sometimes they are, sometimes they're still, they have more questions that, maybe we don't have the ability to answer just because, we're only limited to, what's provided at that snapshot in time that we're there. So we also will do, I should say, I will add, we will research the history of the location, if we can find the, appropriate records to give them more knowledge on that. So we might add that as part of our findings as well.
Do you are you able to negotiate with a person so that they stop haunting a place? Has that ever happened? Besides the other one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to say that the other one was a perfect example of,
yes.
Of that. And yeah, in other places, yes, we have negotiated where we're like going, hey, can you're scaring them when you do this, and we have had successful results with just simply asking them to kind of chill out, so to speak.
And that works when you ask them to chill out. Sometimes it works.
Sometimes it will work. I mean, you got to think about it. If you treat them like you would treat another person, which you should. I mean, you should always be very respectful. As long as you're respectful, you'll get this. You typically will get the same response back. And usually talking, actually, you probably find it's actually funny. You'd probably find more times than not, they will cooperate with you. I mean, that tends to be more the norm, I've found.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that they do like the attention at least being recognized, that they're still there?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No, I think respecting their memory is a very important thing.
What was your most memorable investigation and why?
There's quite a few, but I would have to say the most memorable was when I was at the Mansfield Reformatory and I got thrown down the Central Guardhouse stairs. I was actually lifted up off the ground. I have witnesses that saw me, even one of the guides at the Reformatory. It was kind of crazy. We were loading. We actually had already packed up the equipment, we're ready to go, and I was just walking down the stairs, and all of a sudden I felt my right shoe coming off, and I thought, all right, shoe's going to fall off. I'll pick it up when it's down on the stairs. So I tried to put my foot down, and my foot wouldn't go down. It was like it felt like something was pulling my foot up. So I grabbed the banister. I put my hands on the stair railing banister right away and held tight. I was trying to get my balance, and I had both my hands on the banister. My hands were like ripped off the banister. I got pulled. I felt like I did feel like I was pulled up in the air. My hands were torn off. I got thrown backward. I got twisted around, thrown backwards. Fortunately, I had a backpack on, and at that time I didn't have any equipment in it. I had a hoodie that I had jammed in there, so that actually did act like kind of a cushion to me. And of course I dropped the equipment bags I had, just let them go. And I was fortunate. I started falling backwards down the stairs. I admit, I thought I was going to be, some bad harm was going to come to me. Luckily, one of my teammates, she caught my shoulder with her knee and stopped me from falling. I was able to grab the banister. The other crazy part was when I looked at myself afterwards, I noticed I had a bruise on my chin, like somebody had given me like an uppercut to my face. And the guy downstairs who worked at Mansfield told me, he said they've had many people thrown down that staircase before. He said that's happened many times where somebody was pushed down there. And he said he saw it too. He was freaked out. He was like, I think he was a little more freaked out than I was at the time.
What happened with the other cases? Did the people get injured badly? Did you know? Because you were lucky. What about the other people?
He did not, of course, probably for liability reasons. They didn't tell me if anybody actually got hurt, but I would imagine I would say from my own personal experience, I could see people having gotten hurt.
Mm-hmm. So when during your investigation of that reformatory, was there some negative energy? Was it that you could surmise who or some people were responsible?
Oh yeah, I mean that was a very violent prison in general. You know, they shot the movie Shawshank Redemption in that movie, and you know they had cases where like people, you know, many inmates killing inmates. I mean, I picked up a lot. I had a lot of. I mean, that was a we had voices like threatening to kill us during that investigation. So definitely, you know, a prison's definitely not going to be a friendly place to be investigating.
Mhm.
A lot of
But
negative energy.
right, but usually places with a lot of activity.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, very much. I mean, this place was like way overcrowded too for at the time. They
Mhm.
had like a solitary confinement where sometimes they put like 6 inmates in one cell. Oh, it was like bad. And sometimes one, you know, somebody would kill one of the guys in the cell, stick their body under the bed.
Oh. And what years was this reformatory active?
Um, Mansfield, I think it closed like I want to say all the way. It was open all the way up to be around the 70s. I want to say
Mhm.
because they actually ended up opening up a more modern facility next door.
Oh. Mhm. And while you were there, that modern facility was operating next door.
Yeah, there was actually a few windows where they warned us, you know, don't aim your cameras, you know, out these windows because you'll be you know, videotaping the new facility. And they would come out, you know, they'll come over and be like, hey, you know, you're not allowed to be videotaping,
Mhm.
you know, the movements of a active prison facility.
I see. Mhm. What was your greatest disappointment in an investigation and why?
Um, Greatest, well, you know, I would just have to say, you know, I've been to a few sites where you know, just nothing happened. I've had I've I've gone, you know, these entities or whatever's there, they're not, you know, they're not going to perform on demand. And
Mhm.
no, I've been to a few places where, you know, we were like we went to Waverly Hills our second time we went there. It just wasn't as active as it was the first time we went there. And that I would have to say was one of the many disappointing. I mean, I've been to quite a few locations where I was just like, I know you guys say something's going on here, but we didn't get anything.
Was it on account of maybe one of the group members that were there that maybe kind of caused the activity to stay away? Does that happen?
I mean, there could be it could happen. Would I have any way of knowing it? No, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of factors that could come into play that, you know, we just don't know. You know, it's you know, this there's no, like I said, the hard part with this is there's really no hard set rules for anything.
Mhm. Yes, it's still there's still a lot of investigating to be done, is what you're saying.
I mean, there are places, however, I will say there's places that are more dangerous than others that I don't necessarily would not recommend for you know, for people to attempt to go to.
Such as?
Um, a good one. I don't want to. So like Zach Bagans' haunted museum in Las Vegas, he has a lot of like really hardcore objects in there. And I did do a late night investigation there,
Mhm.
and I would say for somebody who's an inexperienced investigator, I would not recommend it because if you're not careful and, you know, not on your guard, it would be easy to probably bring something bad back with you, or have something bad happen. I
Mhm.
mean, they even share videos of that location where they've had people like all of a sudden like drop to the floor and, you know, free acting strange, you know, or
Mhm.
a lot of, or people reporting that, you know, after I went to the museum, you know, these bad things happened to me afterwards. So yeah, I mean,
Mhm. What other dangers are there in investigating hauntings?
well, as I said, bringing back something bad
Mhm.
are, I mean, I would have to say probably my first experience of like knowing when not to record something was I had the good fortune of actually meeting Ed and Lorraine Warren back when I was a college photographer for the college newspaper. I got to cover them when they came, and they had this recording of demon voices from when they were performing an exorcism, and they warned everybody in the room not to record those voices because they had incidences of people bringing things back. So I always use that as like my the first example I even ever had of something not to do,
Mhm. Mhm. Okay.
and or picking up an object from a location, or like if you're at a cemetery and find like bones, or you shouldn't take anything from the location you were at, because that has a potential of bringing back that energy.
Mhm. Okay. And that has happened before then, of people picking up bones from a cemetery and then bringing some energy back with them.
Oh yeah, there's tons of stories. Not that I've ever done anything like that, but
Mhm.
no, I mean there are tons of stories where people find out that if they brought back an object, they realize they brought back an object from a location, and then once they got either returned it to the spot, then things stop happening afterwards.
Mhm. What other phenomenon has the Chicago Ghost Hunters group investigated? Any cryptozoological investigations?
Cryptids, we have never, I've always actually, I mean, I've always had a big eye personally, and we've had a few people that were, into like Bigfoot hunting and stuff, but have we actually ever actively organized anything in that realm? No, I have not. I know one of the big ones that I've always actually wanted to do is the Beast of Bray Road up in Wisconsin. That's actually a big one.
What is it
There's
called
this
again?
author, the Beast of Bray Road,
Okay.
and actually, if you want a good guest actually to talk about that, I'll give a shout out to Linda Godfrey. She actually wrote a book on that subject, and she loves to talk about that. She's like the resident expert on that cryptid phenomena, and she's a journalist herself. So,
Oh, thanks. Thanks for the tip. What about UFO sightings? Any investigations into those?
um, me personally, yes. I mean, I haven't taken the group on. We've had a few people, that have been in the group that have, have thought they had it like an abductee experience. So yeah, personally, I have tried to investigate those, and I think there is kind of a component that kind of combines, UFOs and hauntings, because you know, in that theory, there is a theory that aliens can travel, dimensionally. So who's to say that a haunted building isn't necessarily caused by an alien and not a spirit? You don't know. And you'll find a lot of stuff written about that theory as well.
What about
Same thing with like
no, go ahead.
same thing with like Bigfoot. Nobody's ever actually, there's been photos, but nobody actually seems to encounter them, and they seem to always disappear. How do we know they're not shifting into another dimension? We don't.
Mhm. What about the crop circles? Any investigations into those? Do those ever happen in Chicago area?
Not that I know of. I have not heard of any crop circles in Chicago. It seems like I know I hear more about that in other, like I know in the UK they've had crop circles, but no, I have not heard of anything in our area.
What about the UK Ghost Club? Do they investigate such things as crop circles, or are they more dedicated to hauntings?
I mean, they're members. I mean, being that it is kind of a a lot of different experts in different areas. So yeah, their membership individually probably I can attest to the fact that they definitely have investigated probably everything and anything.
Mhm. Okay. What is the major type of supernatural occurrence in Chicago, would you say?
I would say it's probably more like, you know, seems like a lot of like more poltergeist type, objects moving or furniture being moved around or void or of course the EVP phenomena that seems to be big.
Mm-hmm. And that's compared with other cities. You're saying that Chicago has more of that rather than other kind of hauntings.
I would, the reason why I would say it, and I'll tell you the reason why is, people now are getting, having surveillance cameras, to monitor your, home security systems with cameras is more commonplace now in Chicago. So I would say in general, in a big city where people are doing that kind of stuff, they're capturing, they're able to capture that on camera. So I shouldn't say it's not necessarily occurring more here than any place else, but I think because people are investing in that kind of technology, they're capturing it, so more of it's reported from areas like Chicago.
What about do you just investigate the happenings in the Chicago area, or do you sometimes go out of state? But that costs a little bit too much, right, to travel out?
Oh yeah, no, I've gone out of state many times actually. And it's usually in tandem where I know I'm going to be in that area and somebody reached out. So yeah, I've done that quite a few times.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that you're going on the trip there anyway, and then you just kind of investigated to see what you could investigate over there, and then you went ahead and did it. Is what you're saying?
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not like bankrolled by a network or something where I can just jump on a plane,
Right. Let's do a WZRD community assessment with you. WZRD Chicago, being a nonprofit radio station, must be responsible to the community we serve. WZRD is mandated to file quarterly issues with the FCC on non-entertainment community-focused programming. We like to assess the community for these quarterly issue topics with 3 questions. First, what is the most important to you? Not necessarily with the Ghost Hunters group, but just with what you care about. What is most important to you?
I have actually worked on quite a few fundraisers for cancer research. And actually we did do, up until recently, did do a couple of events at over at Bachelor's Grove Cemetery that actually helped raise money for a children's cancer research clinic.
That's wonderful. That was my next question, and you answered it even before I asked. Second, what long-term problem must we address?
I would just say, just long-term problem would be just people respecting each other. Like I say, even in the ghost hunting world, treating people with respect and willing to help and helping out people when they need it, without people having to request that help. Be more proactive in that, I think, is very important.
And third, what problem must be resolved now?
I would definitely say we need to get through this our pandemic situation. We just need to readapt to how things are working, and help get people back to work and just respect each other. I see too many people getting into fights over trying to politicize or turning it into a personal issue, and just respecting each other. I mean, that's really what it amounts to, respecting the individual.
Speaking of the pandemic, how has the environment, how has the atmosphere that the pandemic has created among the living affected the paranormal, the haunting side? Has it affected that side?
That is so hard to say, just because we've been more isolated. I think I think maybe it's caused people to notice things that are going on more as far as like observing them, but I don't think it's really necessarily impacted that world itself.
Mhm. Wow, thank you so much, Ben Pavalon of the Chicago Ghost Hunters Group, for joining us on WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. It was so wonderful having you here today, and let's talk again in the future.
No, absolutely. No, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too. Be safe.